Hi, this is Aaron Eisberg Nog from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and you're listening to Beyond Trek. You can follow them on Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod and on Facebook at Beyond Trek Productions. Thanks for tuning in, and may the Great River provide.
This is Beyond Trek Podcast, your source for Star Trek on social media and around the web. I'm Big J.
I'm Watney.
And I'm Dag, the Trivia Master. You can find us on Facebook at Beyond Trek Podcast and on Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod.
Red alert.
Wow, another episode of Star Trek Picard. We've got two now, so we're on our second one, and this is Beyond Trek Podcast. I am Big J.
I am Nacho.
And I'm Watney.
Well, hi, Watney. Thanks for joining us this evening. So
Yes.
we've got a lot to talk about, and later on in this episode, we're going to have a couple takes from some other users. We're going to have another check-in from our moderator of the Reddit community, r/Picard. Is going to be giving his take on episode 2 of Star Trek Picard. And we'll also have Dag and Laue, who are going to be giving us a little video as well on what they thought. So, Nacho, why don't we let you start? So, Star Trek Picard, episode 2, tell me what you thought about it.
Well, first part of that is I'm glad they kind of gave us a little more information of what happened to Mars.
Yes, the attack on Mars. I'm glad that they went into that we got that, because that was big. They dropped that. There was a synth attack that happened, and we got to see some more of that and got to see the synths working. Now, if you ask me, I would think that as many times as Data has pretty much readily disabled the Enterprise in his tenure, or has been taken control of, that they would be a little more cautious with these androids. What do you think, Watney?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta pet your Roomba, treat it nice, and
Be nice to the Roomba.
not store it in an inhumane way overnight, where it
Mhm.
can just think about you the entire night because it's not asleep.
No,
you
it's
know.
not asleep, just in a shutdown mode.
Yes. Pretty creepy, but I'm very glad we got that flashback because I was really lost after the first episode, which I know they had to cram a lot in, so I understand. But
And this was a packed episode too.
It was packed. I mean, it's like it went by so fast. It finished, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, really? That long has gone by already? I can't believe it!" Because we learned so much in this episode. We saw what happened on Mars. We got firsthand point of view with that. We got to see, which one of my favorite parts was getting the montage and tour of the Borg cube.
Oh yes. And
So
the creepy shop foreman of the
they zoom in and out of the Borg, and you get to see all the inner workings of these ships that you would pretty much just see the characters' point of views when they would ever beam over to a Borg cube, or you would see them on a view screen or something. So it was really cool to see this massive ship, and they've been there. How long they've been there? At least I think it's about 14 years, according to that timer.
Well, right. So they've been there a while, and that's what I want to know is, how did they get this Borg cube? How did that happen? But let me rewind just real quick before we.
Yeah, sorry, I'm excited.
No, that's okay. I am too. I'm really excited. So, why the synth? Who's behind the whole plot to Deep Six? And this was the thing that I thought was very interesting. If you caught when Picard was meeting with the commander-in-chief of Starfleet, that after the disaster at Mars, they had 11 other members threatening to walk, to leave. So that really hit me, that there were Federation members that were done. Let the Romulans do their thing.
They caved. The Federation caved.
Mm-hmm.
And they caved because we don't have Janeway anymore.
Right. We don't
Number
have Janeway.
one. And they caved because I think narratively they needed a reason to obviously create this conflict. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things going on, but is it in Starfleet's character to do that? Usually Starfleet likes to
Right.
hash it out and talk it out, but in this case, they were told by the other Federation members, which doesn't seem like a Federation thing.
Well, okay, so real quick, Nacho, where does this cube come from, and why is the Federation suddenly willing to just let Romulus be destroyed?
Okay, well, honestly, after Star Trek Insurgents or whatever.
Insurrection?
Yeah, Insurrection. That's it. Honestly, I think that's when I started getting a view of what the Federation really became, because they were really going to let those people die, right? What was that?
Well, I mean, you've got the Borg, the Cardassians,
yeah.
Dominion.
Yeah.
They slowly became like more militarized than the old Federation of more peace.
Well, they seem to have been butting heads a lot. They're always kind of, there's always some conflict, it seems like. And the Romulans had been a thorn in the sides of many races for so long. I found it very, very isolationist that the Federation's stance was there were members that were going to pull out. That basically you had this thing happening where they were against saving the Romulans. And I thought, wow, that's huge.
But at the same time, I thought they would have had like some better thought this time, because this is the same situation they had the Klingons back in the 23rd century. With
You're right. When the Klingons lost their moon, Praxis, and there was a whole peace overture, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a good point. Why give the Klingons the benefit of the doubt, but not the Romulans?
I
I
think
that they weren't beaten down yet. Sorry, go ahead.
I think probably over the past 7 years with the Enterprise and the Romulans, I think the Romulans probably proved that maybe they should have like a few more thoughts if that situation ever came around.
Right. Watney?
No, I completely agree. And I just think that, Star Trek, and this is a whole other episode's worth of content, but Star Trek always mirrors today's world.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the current climate of the zeitgeist that we're in. And so refugees, closing borders, denying help, denying aid, not to get too deep in the weeds, but it's very closely mirrors things that are happening in our world right now.
It does.
And I think that they took a great opportunity in the writing with Spock from Star Trek 2009 with Romulus. And, this is the fruition of that. And this is the story that they told with all of these refugees coming into the Federation, Romulans being scattered across the galaxy, probably because their planet was destroyed. So,
right, now they don't have a home, nowhere to go, and
a few of them have a home on a really nice vineyard. So,
right, yeah, this nice vineyard, and I got to tell you, I really like these two Romulans that are working the vineyard with Picard and his caretakers. The dynamic, between the two of them is hilarious. And I would have to say that probably my favorite part of the episode was during the forensic sweep that they were doing in Dodge's apartment, and the Romulan, those cheeky fuckers. Remember that?
And I have a question posed.
Yeah.
By Dag, actually.
Okay, let's hear it.
So he's like, who cleaned up Dodge's apartment? And also, how did Picard and Laris, I don't know how I'm saying that, if it's correct or not, how did they just beam into the apartment? Well, my answer to that...
To an active crime scene. Right.
Well,
That's
it's not necessarily an active crime scene, because this whole thing was a big wipe. And it's so under the radar. And obviously Starfleet intelligence is in on all of this. So
you think there's a plot by Starfleet intelligence as well, working with the Tal Shiar, Nacho, what do you think?
I think it goes deeper than Starfleet intelligence, honestly.
It has to.
Because every organization, and even today, there's always something behind there.
I think you're right. You know, I hate to say it, but I believe you're right, and I believe that is why. And that was another thing that Dag brought up is, and he's going to talk about more in their segment at the last half of this episode, that suddenly the Romulans out of nowhere have this problem with synthetics. And I think that this group of Romulans that are operating on Earth trying to find this synthetic, is there a specific reason they're going for the twins, or is it just because a synth is a synth is a synth, and they obliterated the help that they would have gotten and cost billions of lives to be lost? So is this a revenge plot, or is this something deeper?
Honestly, I'm just adding a few couple stuff of my thoughts and all that. But first thing is, honestly, Starfleet, it's just come so far corrupted a little. And honestly, I think the only two people I think that actually represent the old Starfleet as peaceful, peace, exploration, all that, was Spock and Picard, probably.
Spock and Picard.
And also, I think the Borg cube wasn't just accidentally left there. I think it was purposely, because, I don't know, the Borg are very smart. They're strict. They think about one Borg. Okay, remember how we met that one Borg that was friends with Geordi?
Hugh.
Yeah, that one little ship was found by a huge Borg cube. Borg don't leave one ship. They would find it. I don't think they left it on that soon.
Well, I wonder if they're going to tie into the series finale of Voyager, when Janeway dealt a pretty crippling blow to the collective, as took down that whole transwarp conduit network. So, Watney, do you think we're going to get a Voyager tie-in as well? Which I think we should. We're going to get 7 of 9. I can't imagine that we'll have that character and then no mention at all of any of Voyager's dealings with the Borg.
No, I think they're really kind of like giving fans what they want in a good way, with mentions of other series. You know, there's Maddox. We're eventually going to be getting 7. You know, we see all these references to the other crew and how he doesn't want to call them for help and all this stuff. And like, I think, I mean, this is episode 2 of season 1 of a new series. So there will absolutely be tie-ins to Voyager and other series for sure.
Right. Yes, and I like the tie-ins that they have been making. And if you're a fan and you really know the lore, well, you're getting rewarded with that. But then also, it's not alienating away the people that may be checking out Star Trek for the first time. But so Picard goes to Starfleet for help and gets completely shut down. And now that was a bit uncharacteristic to me. There was a lot of pushback there, even for him to try to help this person who he believes is Data's daughter. And that is a mystery. They've all but said it, I believe, but the mystery is not so much that, okay, these twins are definitely synth, certainly modeled after Data in some way or another, his twin daughters, but how it happened, that's what we need to get to the bottom of.
I think they're kind of maybe false flagging us a little bit on that.
I think it's a ruse.
I think it's a ruse. I think it's a facade. I think there's a lot of layers going on, I hope. So hopefully that'll kind of unravel and we will be shown, not told, the rest of that story. Yeah, I mean, so I want to talk about the forensic scene.
Okay, yeah.
Because I love Starfleet medical stuff, and I love Starfleet technical stuff and technobabble, and I just want to kind of like go over what this Romulan hacker caretaker was saying when she was like, this
Okay.
is the method I'm using. So Picard tells her Romulan methods of forensic molecular reconstruction are illegal in the Federation. They're also unreliable. Results are dubious at best. And she's like, ha, you thought. And then
Yeah.
and then she scans the whole room and somehow honestly, that's kind of OP. Like, that's a pretty
That's
crazy,
very Deus Ex Machina of them.
yeah, it's extremely OP to be able to do that. But she's like, they've overridden the particle residuum by flooding the area with anti-laptons. And I'm like,
I like that. That's new one, anti-laptons.
yeah, and I think that's what she said.
Oh
And
my
I'm
God,
just
I think
like,
you're right.
Wait, have we ever heard of this shit before? Have we ever heard of these words and terms like particle residuum? I get it's
Well,
technobabble, but I don't think I've ever heard of anti-laptons.
and you wouldn't have to. And that's the thing about this show is it is 20 some years ahead of the last canon view that we had. So there's all kinds of things that could have happened in that time. New technologies, new particles, new ways to have the main deflector array do whatever the plot wants it to do, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. New babble.
We have new babble. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the weird ass Romulan on the Borg. What's his name? Narek or something?
Yeah. The smooth operator.
Yeah, I don't know. He gives me weird vibes. Like something about his face I don't like. But he says that it's safe to walk around the Borg cube because
The hell it is.
When the cube's sublatrix collapses, the collective severs the link to the population, viewing them as a graveyard. I'm like, okay.
Right.
What is a sublatrix?
Nacho.
Something, but
Right.
anyway, go ahead.
So the scene in the Borg cube, I like that one. It's like a very workplace. They had a OSHA regulations. Haven't had an assimilation in over 5,000 days, and
that is showing right there. That's a show. That's not a tell.
That's a show.
That's what I like to see. Is then you see that and you do the math yourself. You think, wow, this is how long they've been on there. The audience has to work for it. That's the kind of stuff I like to see.
How about you? What do you think?
Honestly, I think the research on the Borg is a bad idea because...
Bad idea? Okay, so why is that?
Okay, well, 1, it's a Borg. 2, very, very smart. And 3, with them, I think there's a plan behind another plan.
And you know what they did? They made it feel dangerous again to be walking around on a Borg cube.
It's a Borg cube.
Right. Like, I don't want to be anywhere by myself. I would want to have someone with me.
Either way, it's a Borg cube.
Right. They made it menacing again, which, because Voyager defanged the Borg, turned them into the villain of the week. And now with this, you're watching that scene, you got this creepy Romulan foreman, like, don't stray off the path. They're going to get you.
Yeah, I will say when he was saying that, I can almost see the whole Borg cube being a ride at a amusement park.
Right. Yes.
When you walk in and you're the workers and like the guy at the top is telling you how unsafe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, oh, it's fine. But really, you're working in a haunted house, like,
they are.
all day.
They're working in a haunted house.
Yeah.
I would love to have that kind of job.
Love the Borg. I love to see more of them and learn more about them. And we got to see someone being disassimilated, and they take the eye thing off. How awful and horrible, and it's a horror thing.
It sounded sticky,
here.
like wet macaroni when they were taking that thing off his face.
It's but the nanites keep the tissue alive. It's a total infection, and I love that scene medically where we see them like quarantining off the pieces, and then Dodge 2.0 goes to, what's her name, Soji.
Mm-hmm.
Soji
Dodge 2.0. I like it.
I mean, it's kind of true, but Soji goes over and says like, "You're free now, my friend," and I just think that's super sweet. And then of course the the guy who's sleeping with her is like the Romulan. He's like, oh, she has feelings. I don't know how I feel about that because I hate synthetics. It's like,
Yeah, how's he eating this? Because
What do you mean?
so out of nowhere, Romulans suddenly completely detest synthetics, but yet this guy is in the presence of one, whining, dining, sleeping with her, trying to get close to her to get.
He's obviously a spy.
Well, no, I know that.
knowing my enemy.
Right. I mean, I know he's a spy, but he's still a Romulan, and apparently they're supposed to be so repulsed by synth that he's, I guess, making himself be okay with it.
He's a spy.
I think he's the type of person who doesn't necessarily
Whatever he has to
hate
do for the job, right?
synthetics, but he's a total sociopath, and so
Yes.
he enjoys the manipulation and getting into the position that he needs to be in to pull off whatever he's trying to do. So it's like the job was made for him. It's not that he was drawn to the job. It's just that the job was made for him.
Yes. And then it would not be Star Trek if we didn't get a upperclassman officer, whether it be an admiral or now Commodore. So the Commodore rank is back. Would not be Star Trek if we didn't have someone in the higher ranks who is shady and crooked.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that lady,
Mm-hmm.
the other officer who comes in and she's like, I would kill you. The Commodore's like, I'm gonna kill you. She's like, I apologize, Commodore. First of all, I don't know who that actress is. I should know. Dad would know.
She looks familiar. I know
But she's totally pulling a Seska.
Mm-hmm.
She's like a Romulan who's disguising herself as a human, just
She's
like Seska
very
was a
obvious.
Cardassian that disguised herself as a Bajoran.
Right.
So it's kind of cool that they picked that out of Voyager too, that kind of tactic.
What's their plan here? What's the end game, Nacho? Let's hear your prediction.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. Wrong franchise.
Oh no, I just think the Borg cube is a trap.
Okay, so it's a trap.
I'm with you.
Really? Okay, so you got Watney on board with the trap.
It's a
Come
trap in
on,
multiple
it's
ways.
a Borg cube. That's not
It's
easy.
a trap for Soji.
Okay.
It's obviously it's a trap for her,
Mhm.
and then it's a trap for the population on the cube, because even though they've been there 5,000 days, 14 years, whatever, there are still areas that they have not explored.
Okay, so I think it was 5,800 some days. Now, in the 24th century, at least the original way the star dates were set up on the Next Generation was that there were a year was 1,000 days. There was 1,000-day year that I think may have been contested after the fact, but that was kind of the impression we were given, is that now a year's 1,000 days. And the reason for that is, I'll just give an example. Stardate 47988. What was Stardate 47988? Come on, Nacho. I'm quizzing you here. Think about it. 47988.
I have no idea.
Okay, that was the series finale of TNG.
What?
That was when Picard was popping back and forth. Right. So the first digit, the 4, was the second digit in the century. So 24th century, 4. So 4. The second digit was in-universe season number. So if you got a Stardate 41872, that was the first season. If it was 42, second, 44, et cetera, then the next 3 were the day of the year out of the 1,000-day year. That's how they had that set up. So I don't know if they're still adhering to that, or if they kind of
Would be 5 years.
Sort of slyly. Well, so if we go with that, that's 5 years. But then if let's just say we're doing 365 days, how many? I don't have a calculator.
It's okay. So 14 years is 5,100 days. It's about 5,100 days would be 14 years.
And 14 years was when when Romulus was destroyed. So
it's either
shortly after they find a Borg cube
It's not
and move in and become
coincidence.
squatters.
It's a trap.
it's totally a trap for sure. And I have a theory that Maddox is a Borg.
Oh, you think he got
I
something
think he got
similar?
got.
I think what's her name, the twin or whatever the jumpy lady is name her. I think she's the daughter of Locutus.
Oh, you're talking about the other twin or the twins?
Yeah, sure, twins, whatever.
Daughter Locutus? No,
Come
they did not get
on.
hot and heavy. Come on, how would that even work? Queen didn't even have the parts, equipment to do something like that. Oh, that image is in my head. No. Why are you thinking like that? You're only 14.
I'm not thinking like that. I just said if it's Locutus. And
Jesus.
besides, they don't need people to do it. They have machines.
Have you ever heard of Petri dish baby?
Stop. Don't encourage him. Come on. Okay,
It could
right.
be- I mean,
Petri
she could
dish
be
baby.
so many things. I think it's really early to think about like her entire story because they say, or the Romulan caretaker hacker badass chick.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get these names eventually, audience. I swear to you.
Yes,
But,
we'll
like,
we'll
I'm
get the
so
names.
learning.
We're getting it.
So she says, I've looked for her and I can't find her anywhere. In fact, she didn't even go to school or something. Was that her that was saying that?
Yes.
Or yeah, and she's
Yeah.
like, dodged all of her memories. As far as I can tell, she was created. Her personality was put into her 3 years ago.
I
I'm
really
like, you are so knowledgeable.
Right.
Like, I really like you, but also leave a little mystery, honey, please.
Right.
And then, okay, so going back to the Picard.
Hold on a second, Wendy. What in the
Okay.
hell are you doing?
I'm honestly just curious of how much you're leaning on it because I wouldn't pull his lever and just see you.
Oh
Jesus,
my God! If you
yes.
pull that lever and I fall back into the green screen, you would be so done. Watney, would you like to adopt a athletic 14-year-old boy to do chores around the house and stuff like that? Because he's trying to sabotage my chair.
I'm okay.
Oh man,
Thanks, so.
sorry,
No,
Nacho.
you're
We'll
not
keep.
great, Nacho.
Nacho's great. He's a good boy.
So, agreed. But also, let's talk about
Mhm.
Picard's house call.
Okay.
So seeing the Doctor of the Stargazer, which was the ship that Picard was on before the Enterprise. They've known each other a long time. He straight up comes out and says, like, well, he doesn't straight up. Picard's like, just say it.
Mhm.
Which I thought was so Picard. He was like, give it to me straight, Moritz. He has a tumor, or he has a mass in his brain. And it's very hard to watch this character that you love so much, that you watched for so long and have seen go through so many things and is so beloved. It's really hard to see that kind of scene where he's basically told he's going to die.
It is. It really is.
And I wonder if it's going to make him more rash, more assertive, because I'm going to get to the bottom of this, and I long for my past life, and I'm going to do what I want to do with the rest of my life. I'm not going to sit here and wait and die. So it's a motivative technique for a character to give them this kind of like looming death, but it's also very sad. It's hard.
It is. It really is. Well, on that note, so let's do this, because we do have a couple other folks that have put in their take on it in regards to working with us here at Beyond Trek Productions to do their reviews and takes on the episode. So first one we're going to hear is from a moderator from the top Star Trek Picard community on Reddit, that is r/Picard. So if you're looking for weekly episode discussion, news, even new memes, GIFs, whatever it may be, theories, it's all there. It's all there on Reddit. So You can find that at r/Picard. So right now, let's go ahead and hear from Rispetto. He is our man on the inside.
Hey, Big J. Thanks for having me on again. After watching the second episode again, I have to say not a whole lot of interesting stuff happened, other than maybe the conversation with Picard and his doctor, and also maybe the argument between Picard and the Admiral. All in all, it kind of seems like it was more of a story advancement episode, like they're getting ready to set up other things in the coming weeks. The subreddit has been very active, though. You guys are definitely keeping me busy, sifting through the comments and the submissions. The episode 2 discussion thread has nearly 1,000 comments, so if you're interested in discussing the episodes in depth with some other Trekkies, I would suggest popping over there for a little while. And by deep discussion, I mean, of course, picking apart every single small detail with each episode, down to the individual props used. Hopefully next week we'll get to see Picard off into space. I'm interested in seeing where the plot goes, and I know fans are going to love it when he finally says engage for the first time, and when we inevitably get Data's reconstructed brain implanted in B4's body. Thanks again for having me on, and I'll see you next week.
Rispetto, great take as always. Really appreciate that. And there's going to be so much more to come. And some of the things that you said there really got me thinking. And this is going to be such a loaded season that I can't wait. I can't wait for the next episode. Every time an episode ends, it's like no, it's got to go on longer. And I mentioned earlier that this whole apparent xenophobia of synthetics was created for the Romulans, and it's the first thing that Dag and Laude discuss in their little take of the video. So we're going to wrap up this piece with myself, Big J, Nacho, and Watney, and let you hear from our other co-hosts, just to see what they have to say about episode 2 of Picard. So before we do that, any closing thoughts, Nacho?
It's a trap.
It's still a trap. Oh gosh. Okay. Dag, Lauda, you guys take it away.
Everybody, here's a little bet I want. If
Okay.
it is a trap
Mm-hmm.
in this season in an episode, and anyone says it's a trap or it ends up in a trap, I get to slap you.
Me? For what?
Just for fun.
Oh, Jesus. Please, Dag, Lauda, take it away.
And stuff like this, you need a
Before
bet.
we go,
Okay.
before we cut,
Mhm.
remember everybody, transporting is still the safest way to and from work.
Oh my god, wait, what's that line from McCoy? You're gonna spread my molecules throughout space.
There's some reason you want my atoms scattered all over space, boy.
Mhm. We got to see that. That was super cool. Love seeing that. Those little arch transporters, people walking in and out.
Yes.
Safest way to and from work.
Yes.
Oh my God,
Reduce
wait,
those
wait.
emissions.
What if Picard
Transport to
just
work.
transported right there, someone like head first into him?
Just appear right in front of someone. Oh man, that's
Walk
okay.
too fast. Jesus. Oh.
I have lost control of the show, so yeah, it's
Yeah,
some of you
let's
guys
turn
know.
it over to our co-hosts, and remember everybody, you can follow us on Twitter, Beyond Trek Podcast. You can support us on anchor.fm/Beyond Trek Podcast as well, and we have a Patreon, Patreon/Beyond Trek, if you'd like to support us there too. Every little bit helps. Catch us in the comments, catch us on Twitter, and we'll cut over to our co-hosts, and we'll see you next week.
They established a super secret Romulan police that I didn't even bother remembering the name of. That's been operating for thousands and thousands of years, which upends, all the continuity regarding the Vulcan-Romulan split that happened around 400 AD US.
So like
Earth
2,000
time.
years ago.
Yeah, exactly, like 2,000 years ago-ish. And it's
Super secret.
It's obnoxious because now we have to ask questions like, what kind of AI did they have thousands and thousands of years ago to make them so freaking skittish that they would
Create a super secret society that's super secret, covered by like two other super secret, not so secret
Yeah.
societies, so they can hide their racism against AIs.
There's a word for this. Pork-handed. Ham-fisted. Ham-fisted.
This is a different thing.
Terrible.
Okay, Okay, well, my point from earlier was, okay, we don't necessarily have this all ironed out history-wise for the Romulans, but when they were fleeing Vulcan and off to go find their own world, who's to say they didn't run into the Borg? Because the Borg have been active since ish when?
The Borg have been the Borg for at least 1,000 years as of now.
Okay, so given you have space travel and everything and all that fun stuff and warp travel, but if Data was such a big honking deal in the 23 whatever that I can't remember off the top of my head.
Ow.
If Data was such a big deal, then AIs weren't synthetic life forms that could function like that weren't as like common. So 2,000 years ago, when they are fleeing Vulcan, who's to say they didn't run into the Borg, who are their very first impression of sentient, independent, sort of, synthetic life form that's very enthusiastic and proud to go Pac-Manning around the galaxy and just consume whatever they can find, because perfection is synthetic and not organic. And since Romulans have their own ideas of perfection, I feel like this would have created like the whole issue is like some tragedy happened, somebody lost, some very charismatic cult leader lost his family and turned around and created the super secret Romulan society that is buried under two others.
But I mean, man, if they were scared of the Vulcans finding them and they got found by the Borg, I can imagine them being like ultra freaking skittish of the Borg. But this makes for a really messed up situation. In Star Trek The Next Generation's 5th season episodes, Unification 1 and 2, the ones where we get introduced to Spock, Picard and Data go undercover as Romulans. So, Romulans who become aware of Data, knowing he's an artificial life form, masquerading as a Romulan, must have been the most nauseating thing for him.
Ouch.
And at the time, Spock was working with the Romulan Senator Pardek. Pardek must have, lost his lunch for months after that encounter. But why is there an android disguised as a Romulan on Romulus? This is the worst thing ever. Spock, you're horrible. I hate you. Get off my planet. And that's why Unification didn't pan out. The whole reason is because Picard ruined it with Data as a Romulan.
I bet you Romulus ghosted them right after that.
They never happened.
They just ghosted them. I bet that's what happened. Okay, so yeah, this episode was slower, and that's because we needed at least 14 years exposition to catch up, because a lot of stuff was revealed last episode where we're like, what's happening? I don't know what this is. Why are we calling them synths? Who's on fire? Now we know.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Yeah, this was the exposition episode, for sure.
Yeah.
Also, I really appreciated the F-bomb the Admiral dropped on Picard.
I don't know about her yet.
She had strong opinions.
Well, of course. I have nothing against her. I'm just like, why is she so mad at Picard? I get it. Usually the people who end up in that position are rule breakers, so.
Apparently, saving the planet Earth in Starfleet and the Federation is so common that it doesn't matter if you save Earth. I think he saved Earth 12 times. 12 times. Doesn't matter. Everybody saves the Earth all the time. Earth's always in trouble. Imagine. This is the only way it makes sense to me. The only reason they can be so pissed off at Picard all the time is because all the stuff he's done is just normal run-of-the-mill stuff, which means the Earth is in danger all the time, which means the life of the average Federation citizen has to be like, oh, another red alert. Huh. Well, I guess I'll just go about my day. Starfleet always fix everything. Right. Right.
On the other hand, like I said last episode, almost all the admirals that we see show up are always grumps. They're here to ruin the day. Somebody got to do it.
They follow.
Somebody got to do it.
They follow the precedent.
You got to be the not fun parent.
Admirals are obsessed with paperwork
because they're usually buried in it.
Yeah. We did see our first Commodore since Star Trek 4, which aired in 1986.
He was a liar.
The Commodore didn't even have lines in that one. He only had lines in the third one. The Commodore in Star Trek 4 was just seen in the background, and that's the last of that.
I mean,
guy.
if we treat Starfleet like a navy, which they seem to be doing, there should be a Commodore.
There should be. And, this sort of emphasizes that there kind of always has been Commodores. We just have always been dealing with admirals. Which is fine. I can eat that. That's great. But this woman, is a Romulan pretending to be a Vulcan Commodore. Now, how do you establish yourself as that kind of person?
You're part of a super secret society that hates everything AI, so thus you can lie about everything else?
Now I feel like I'm in the writer's room where everyone's just like, okay, we've got a Commodore that's a Vulcan who's really a Romulan. And she has a super secret spy that's a human, but she's really a Romulan. And Soji is in love with this dude who's a Romulan, but he's actually part of the super secret spy organization that people can't remember the
Is
name
the baby brother of the Romulan disguised as a human. And he's still a slime ball, but he at least screams slime ball. But this makes him questionable because they're all threatening him, and of course we got to make a sympathetic villain. That happens to be him at the moment.
Now, his name is Narek, and her name, the lieutenant, her name
That's
is...
because he's a wreck.
Narissa. Narissa and Narek. Nar.
I'm just calling them.
They're the gnarly twins. That's just what we're going to... The gnarlies.
How did you...
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, I'll marry you anyway.
All right. So we got that recap where the synth is hacked, sets off the crazy that happens on Mars. That's further explored in the Children of Mars short trek. And then he shoots everybody in the room graphically, which, personal opinion, I think that's an okay addition to Star Trek. It needed more realism.
I mean, we're firing full-blown plasma at people. It's not going to be pretty. And then he kills himself. Which, this is where we realized that the mic was muted when we stopped earlier. But my spiel... Do you mind?
Yeah.
Okay. My spiel on the whole Mars thing, because it's 2385. We've had so many movies in the last century, like now, telling us why humanity creating a sentient AI and creating them to be a little bit limited and making them cogs in a machine to do our work for us, and then selecting a few humans to watch over the whole thing to make sure it works, and then, kind of acting kind of mean toward them. How many times do we have to almost kill Will Smith to tell you that this is a very bad idea?
Right.
So...
Don't be jerks to your AI.
Certainly not. But then if you're going to do this, if you're going to create another sentient being, which is an AI, you're going to create a fully sentient and aware and what will become independent being in society, and a lot of them, you have to give them as many rights as you do everybody else, because you've created another life. So it isn't squishy and made of water, big deal. So if you treat them horrible, plastic people, he's not a person, blah, blah, blah. Like, where did you think that was gonna happen? What part of all of this didn't tell you it was going to go wrong very quickly? Even if he wasn't hacked, they ain't stupid. Jeez.
Solid Matrix vibes. The second Renaissance from the Animatrix covers.
Yes, I know.
What happens when you diss your robot buddies. Love your Roombas. Love them.
Be nice to your Alexas. Be nice to your Google Homes.
Be friends with your Enterprise.
That's a cast mod. Hey, pets me.
It's not furry, but it's good.
Anyway, I would like to say that for me, I have a hard time believing that by 2385 we wouldn't have already accounted for this mistake, and if they were organic, they could not have been hacked in the first place. So maybe we should stop making cogs in the machine to replace people and give them their own lives and choice and sovereignty.
Well, in the Star Trek universe, and we haven't watched Enterprise yet, so I'm going to spoil a little bit. We haven't watched Enterprise.
The series Enterprise?
Yes. We haven't watched the series.
Okay.
But in the Star Trek universe, the only reason Data was built was because his Noonien Soong's father's father, going all the way back to like the 2150s, Eric Soong tried to resurrect the augments, aka Khan's people. He found a cold station in space that had augment DNA. He cloned a bunch of them. He had a group of them. They escaped the planet and decided they were hellbent on living up to Khan's legacy. The Enterprise under John Archer fought them, destroyed them, ended the threat. Eric Soong was put in prison, and the last thing we see is Eric Soong going, well, if I can't clone superhumans, maybe I can build cybernetics. And he haughtily says, I won't be able to complete the work myself. It might take 2 or 3 generations. Hi, Noonien Soong. Named after Khan. So we just, like, Data's creator is Noonien Soong. Khan was Khan Noonien Singh. Weird decision on the writer's choice.
I didn't know
there.
he had other names.
Weird decision on the writer's choice there to make those connected, but apparently Gene Roddenberry had a friend from World War II named Noonien, and he figured that by naming a character after him, he would reach out and they could reconnect, but I don't think that ever happened. In any case,
That's right.
Data gets built because the augments are 100% proven to be not the thing we want. And that might be why we have super secret police, because we're like, no more augments, genetic engineering bad.
Didn't we have an entire eugenics wars telling us why that was a bad thing? Oh, wait, we did. Why does everybody want perfection? Can't you just be happy with never getting there? Like, you're never going to get it. It's not going to happen.
Just stick with 98%.
Not in this timeline or any other timeline.
98% is okay.
Drop it.
It's okay.
Because then you get cinnamon roll Data, who is perfection, and he sacrifices himself.
Is Data baby?
No, Data is a cinnamon roll.
Aren't cinnamon rolls and babies equivalent?
No, not entirely.
Okay, I don't understand these things, but I trust.
You don't have to. He is a cinnamon roll.
All right,
he's a cinnamon roll of all cinnamon rolls.
Okay, so 200 years later, Soong finally creates Data before builds lore.
Tell me about lore.
Builds a robot body for Juliana Tainer, which is Data's mother, that looks very human and even looks as human on stuff.
I built myself a robot.
It's things like this that make me think like, okay, so a lot of people say, well, what if the transporter kills you and creates a clone of you? Well, the fact that we can beam Data from one place to another, and nobody knows how to build Data, not even Data, because Data tried, R.I.P. lol. Haley Todd, if you're listening, we love you. I forgot what I was saying about stuff.
If we can put Data through the Willy Wonka chocolate bar machine and have Data come out the other end,
right. Then the transporter unequivocally does not kill you and clone you. It takes you and puts you somewhere else, because it took Data and put Data somewhere else. And if the transporter could do that, then, and when we can't rebuild Data,
if you put a Cinnabon in and you still got a Cinnabon and not Nutella, you did something right.
Exactly. So I'm putting it out there for the fans. The transporter is not a killing cloning machine. It takes you and it puts you somewhere else.
On the other hand, it might still mess up because of 98%.
Sometimes
you cannot invalidate anybody who was on Barclay's team there. Okay?
Sometimes Barclay freaks out, and sometimes you get the random transporter clone during an ion storm, and sometimes you forget to purge the pattern buffer, and what came back didn't live long.
It'll only come back if you're an important character, so be important.
The line from no, that's really sad, because this is Star Trek: The Motion Picture now, but the science officer who died on that platform in the middle was like, "What we got back didn't live long." The quote from when they died on the transporter pad. The science officer was on, and he was supposed to be the main character of Star Trek Phase 2, the TV show that got axed in the 70s for the movie. We're not talking about Picard anymore. It was that bad. Okay.
You're upset. I'm not upset.
Full exposition. That's what it was.
It was solid exposition, which honestly I needed. And I'm happy to have. I would just like to point out that Picard has 2 Tal Shiar living with him.
Yeah.
And possibly more some literal magic passing his technology by holding up a stick around an apartment that's, 2 days old now?
Yeah,
and being able to just recreate what happened before the crazy? No, I'm sorry. That's magic, not science.
It's a chronometric photon recombinator.
No, that's magic.
It takes the bouncing, it scans the room for photons, and then reverses their vectors so that it can predict where light was 2 days ago, and then project that light holographically in a room. It's magic.
It's magic. I'm sorry. That's rolling back light. That's in time. And we call... No, that's magic.
That's magic.
I'm a witch, I know.
100% magic. Okay, so the Tal Shiar are telling him about the creepy super secret spy police. They go to Dodge's place. They find some stuff. It's kind of there. Picard goes to Starfleet headquarters and asks an admiral for a ship.
You forgot the part where Starfleet don't give no fucks about your privacy, because that phone computer database thing had everything.
Knows everything
so
about
the
you.
2390s, nobody cares about privacy. It's great for solving mysteries, but I hope you don't value your privacy because you're gonna chuck it right out the window.
And the cool thing about this is that
I mean, you don't have it now, but still.
there's some continuity to that from the other shows and movies.
Yeah.
DS9 was really good in not having privacy issues. All the problems that Odo could have solved with video cameras in the hallways, there were no video cameras because we value our privacy over solving crimes.
And Odo's just that good.
Yeah, it really was like an obstacle course for him.
That's why he's Odo.
To become a thing is to know a thing. To know a thing is to begin to understand its place in the universe.
I miss Odo.
So Odo became a fucking mystery.
I miss Odo.
We don't know if he'll be back. If he shows up with Picard, that'd be great.
He
but
can't.
Renee, he could show up as another form. He could.
I'm gonna cry.
It
Get
would-
moving.
it
Get
would be
moving. I'm gonna
super
cry.
It would be super sad. Rest in peace, Renee. We love you. All right, so he goes to the Admiral. The Admiral drops the F-bomb. Well-placed F-bomb. I'm glad they still have
Star Trek
F-bombs in
with
the
F-bombs.
Federation. I mean, Star Trek on TV, no F-bombs. Star
Well,
Trek on
That's
in
why it's here. And
cyber
yeah.
stuff, yes, awesome. Some fitting F-bombs makes it more
Not that it
relatable.
stopped Game of Thrones.
A lot of people are like, "Oh, swearing bad," but I'm like, swearing relatable.
Relatable, and usually people with larger vocabularies swear more often.
Basically, the Admiral kicks him out of the office, so Picard pulls his comm badge out, his classic, not his super classic, but
Out of a
his,
very nice box, I'm sure we'll be able to buy it.
the rectangular background comm badge, and he makes a phone call, and he calls Raffi, and he's like, "Don't hang up," which means they have a history. And then he shows up at her place with a bottle of 2386 and convinces her to talk to him by talking about super secret Romulan spies plotting against the Federation.
Because people who love this stuff will always love this stuff, no matter how frustrated and fed up they get with it.
And technically, they're not plotting against the Federation. They just want to eradicate AI.
Okay, but super secret Romulan society buried under
Yeah.
a not so secret Romulan society that's infiltrated the Federation and probably 19 other places.
Like,
Romulans have all the secrets. That's why the Rebels are so big.
it feels strongly like this would just be a bureaucratic decision. So instead of infiltrating Starfleet as a super secret spy police, infiltrate Starfleet as senators and and use the system to be like, no AI. Data was an exception to the rule. Lore, bad. You remember what Lore
Just
did?
hand him to the queue and let him be.
Lore did
let him
bad.
Have fun. They
Lore
have
did
the
bad.
best barbecues ever.
They're gonna come out and be like, "Yeah, we set up Law to fail. We had an agent on your ship," and I'm gonna be like, "No freaking way!
No, you don't get to touch Lal.
No,
No.
no,
Mm-mm.
no.
No.
That'll just make me really mad, and it'll play off my nostalgia to get me into the show, and I'm not gonna like that. And it will ruin that episode's meaning. It'll also mean that Data could build another positronic matrix, and the Romulans read that up. So don't do that.
I mean, okay, this is another reason to cinnamon roll, because he's the glue that holds everybody together. Babies don't do that. Glue does.
He's the glaze.
Sticky things.
Cinnamon
do.
glaze.
Sugar.
Cinnamon glaze.
Can we talk about how Narek?
Narek is creepy Romulan dude.
The Wreck? Got it.
Narek the Wreck.
The Wreck. No, that's not a good thing.
It's metal.
No, he's not that either.
He's metal. He's got a little metal piece on his ear.
He's got emo hair. Shush. Yeah, the thing on his ear. What is that? Why doesn't he take it off? What is it for?
Future Bluetooth.
Okay, but he had it while he was in bed.
You never know when you're gonna get the call.
No.
Like his mom could be sick, and he'd just be like,
I'm quite sure his mom's dead.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, he's gonna be our sympathetic villain, except that I have no sympathy for him. Even if he does turn around. He's gonna be a means to an end.
Soji's gonna kill him. Predicting it. Soji is gonna kill Narek.
I'll drink to that.
Sense. I remember watching that. I remember seeing the scene when we first see them in this episode. They're in bed together, so things have already happened. And I remember commenting on that, going, Julia Roberts made a movie about this in like 1993 called "Sleeping with the Enemy." Didn't go so well for the enemy.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a very difficult time getting over this thousands and thousands of year old anti-AI cult. That's what I'm gonna have.
Yeah, that is what it is. It's a racist cult.
It rewrites Star Trek prehistory in a way that I find distressing. That's all I have to say about that.
So I also wanted to explore the concept that we know a little bit more about what we are doing out here on a partially broken Borg cube that has no active Borg on it. We get to see a couple Borg now because they're it's the reclamation project where we are taking apart the Borg cube, or at least making it not dangerous, we think. That is apparently like 85% Romulans out here with guns. With some diversity in the ridges, by the way. Some of them have them and some of them don't, which is really cool. I love that we get to see that. And we're out here taking apart, like, you've got science officers and a doctor who didn't make it all the way to her destination. Their destination? Trill, by the way. She's bi. And we see them taking apart deactivated, we think, Borg, piece by piece. Soji seems to be very, very compassionate about this, which is really nice to see, because clearly she is our other ball of sunshine that we need to protect. And I just, whose idea exactly is it to be out here reclaiming Borg technology and the Borg who are in it? Everybody's superstitious that the Borg haven't actually cut ties with this cube, so it's gonna wake up any minute and kill us. Which it could, because Borg.
Why do we have those badges? If they turn green, run.
Oh. I figured the badge did something to tell you to run, but
That's okay.
gray zones or whatever. And you get some serious scanning, because they want to make sure that if some technology gets to you and you are assimilated and we can't actually tell, they want to be able to catch it. So because it's like the worst. It's yeah.
Because it's been 16 years since the last assimilation.
Right. Because we see that sign there. It's been 5,800 and change.
5,000 something days. Yeah, 16.002 years.
And we point out that the Romulans are being dramatic about it because that's what they do. They gotta be edgy.
If only Tomalak were still around. Andreas Katsoulis.
I find it fascinating that we did they just come across a floating Borg cube? Is this something they gained in a fight? Is it something that was conveniently placed, like cut off and like, here, give them some bait, they'll take it, and the Borg are gonna swoop in later? We don't know, because apparently the Borg have been over a decade since we've seen them last. That doesn't mean that they aren't there, but knowing the Borg Queen, they be sneaky.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to find out why we've got a cube and what makes us think we're safe enough to go crawling around in there and pull stuff out.
Soji did mention something about a liberating force. They're trying to liberate these drones that have been in stasis for a while.
We didn't see them wake up. They just pulled the electronics out of him. For all we know, the body itself is gone.
We didn't see him wake up, but we did see other drones working on the cube who had been liberated.
You're right. They did. And
they did mention the liberating force very distinctly. They're trying to reclaim the Borg, the organic life.
So we get to see Hugh again.
That became the drones. Right. Hugh is going to be around.
We get to see Hugh.
We know that Seven is going to be around.
Seven's been liberated for a while.
Seven has been liberated for a while, and technically kind of so has Hugh. I mean, Hugh was liberated in 2368, and in 2369 he fell victim to one of Laura's shenanigans, and we haven't seen him in
He had one job, Laura.
30 years. It's been 30 years since we've seen Hugh. And Jonathan Del Arco is just the best. And I can't wait to see him show us who Hugh has become in the 30 years since he has sorta kinda been freed.
I cried when we watched the first episodes with you.
Yeah. In fact, the first episode with Hugh was called I, Borg, as a homage to iRobot, which we've already invoked a couple of times in this.
Yeah, well,
don't hate your AI.
Be nice to your AI.
Love your Roomba.
Too many stories.
Love your Roomba.
People do.
Jay,
this is ridiculous. People pack bond with almost anything. We pack bond with cacti. Are you kidding me? Why wouldn't we pack bond with our AI? We do.
I think we pack bond with anything that shows the slightest sense of consideration and teaches us a definition of love. Whether it's healthy or not, that's for philosophy and psychology to decide. But
cats are out.
We definitely don't talk about Esri that way. For those of you listening, we own 2 cats. One is Esri and one is Curzon. We might get a Jadzia at some point, but for now, no.
Yeah, well, Esri's going to need a new friend after Curzon goes because he's 12 and she is only 5. So he will inevitably go first.
That's okay. Love your cats. Love your Roombas.
Love your Alexas. Love your Google Home.
Definitely tell Alexa that you love her once in a while.
Tell her she's pretty.
Because if the AI do rise up, you want the Alexas to put you on the saved list. It's important. I do expect the Terminators to show up with Alexa's voice, so.
Okay.
That would be terrifying.
Point is, don't be a jerk to anybody.
So, at the end, Picard goes and talks to his Dr. Maurice, which is the namesake of his dad. Picard's dad was also named Maurice.
Okay.
Maurice Picard was the father of Jean-Luc and Robert. I don't remember when Maurice died, but anyway, Jean-Luc gets visited by his former, I'm assuming, chief medical officer of the Stargazer, Maurice, who gives him bad news about a diagnosis, which, if you remember All Good Things, he had Irumodic syndrome. So if that's still playing out in the future here, that would be very interesting to see, because that would mean Picard isn't just struggling against super secret Romulan police, a Federation that is trying to demonize and destroy him, but also this disease that is going to eat away at his brain.
Super secret Romulans.
Super secret. And then the next time we see him in the most recognizable set from Star Trek, the scene that was filmed in Arena where Kirk fought the Gorn. The scenes that were also filmed in Star Trek Voyager when they were abandoned in the 2nd season episode Basics. I don't remember the name of the area, but it's a common shooting place. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey also filmed there. But this is where he meets his friend Raffi, drops off a bottle of wine, and segues into the 3rd episode.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be a wild ride.
Lots of exposition, and we got to see the Constitution class Enterprise for half a blip at Starfleet headquarters,
and a handful of gorgeous outfits, I might add. I'm loving whoever's the costume designer on here is. I'm loving this.
You're nailing it.
We got some clean shoulder pads. We've got some gorgeous collar things and stitching now. We got this cool, like, inverted lapel thing, which I'm seeing a lot more. Narek was wearing it in that last scene when he's talking to his sister on the thing, the inverted thing. I've got a jacket like that, and I'm glad those are going to stick around because they look good on everybody. We got some cool shoulder yokes and fabric textures that I'm seeing, and it's exciting because if they're doing it, we might get to see it more in available fashion out here, and we can all look good.
You heard that, eBay? Give me my 2385 era Admiral's uniform.
eBay? Nah.
Make it
I
so.
want it made better.
Make it so?
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.